So everyone here really talking about, as you say there, the way through. What is the way through going to be? We know Theresa May likely to start picking up the phone after this confidence vote is out of the way tonight. So tomorrow and in the coming days, speaking to parliamentarians and presumably to the Labour Party as well, trying to find not what the House of Commons is against, it's pretty clear what they're against, but what are they for? So let's discuss a little bit more. I'm joined by the Labour MP, Flint. You've thought a lot about finding a way through in all of this. You don't want no deal, but you also want a deal, and you want to make sure that that referendum result is honoured. So what do you think is the answer now?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. We need to talk about what we're for rather than what we're against, and we need to move from process, which I think is boring everyone to tears, to substance. So to give you one example, Vicky, there's lots of concern across Parliament, but particularly on the Labour side, about as we leave the European Union, how do we make sure we don't have a race to the bottom? So, for example, on workers' rights, environmental protections, health and safety standards for the goods we buy, how do we make sure that they don't row backwards in those areas? So when I met with the Prime Minister last week with 7 other Labour MPs, which led to us tabling an amendment, was to address that particular issue about how could we make sure we have a legally binding commitment to make sure that we don't fall behind the European Union in those areas. Now, I have to say, the government, both in the House of Commons and privately, indicated that they were open to further discussions in that area. Now, this is not just one of my concerns. I know it is central to Labour's concerns as well as the trade union movement. So if after today we can get into some meaningful discussion over the next few weeks, I think that should be one of the items at the top of the agenda for May to reach out to Labour and start a proper discussion.
Isn't there a problem for Labour and for Jeremy Corbyn as well, though? If he is seen to facilitate, if you like, Brexit, there are lots of people in the Labour Party who want that result to be reversed, that referendum result. He's got a dilemma as well as Theresa May, hasn't he?
Well, we're all dealing in our parties, particularly Labour and the Conservative, with very different views. But let us just be very clear about something. After the EU referendum, Labour said it would respect the outcome of that. We signed up to Article 50, and then we had the general election in which my party, as well as the Conservatives, in our manifesto said we respected the outcome of the referendum, we would seek to get the best deal. Now, that is still the top-line policy of the Labour Party. We don't want to crash out without a deal, and that is still a proposition that could happen. So I think it's absolutely right that at this point, and I wish it had happened earlier, that if there is going to be some cross-party discussions, that in a number of areas, employment rights, environmental protections, a longer-term customs arrangement, but also talking about how we're going to handle things differently in the transition period after we leave, I think that opens up, hopefully, a more positive, pragmatic, and a discussion that I think the public are actually waiting for to happen here in Parliament. And I think that's something that is totally in line with Labour's policy, and I would absolutely support Jeremy Corbyn 100% if he was willing to take up that opportunity.
Thank you very much indeed. So that's Flint. Now, one view from Labour.